A new alliance on the global stage, introducing BRICS. The world is changing. Global power dynamics are shifting. A new bloc of nations has emerged on the world stage, challenging the established order. This bloc, known as BRICS, comprises Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These 5 nations represent a significant portion of the world's population, landmass, and economic output. They are united by a common goal: to reshape the global financial system and diminish the dominance of the US dollar. For decades, the US dollar has reigned supreme as the world's reserve currency. This dominance has afforded the United States immense economic and geopolitical power. However, BRICS nations are increasingly dissatisfied with this status quo. They seek to create a more multipolar world, where power is more evenly distributed. The question is, can they succeed? The answer is far from simple. Replacing the dollar as the world's reserve currency is a monumental task. It requires a fundamental shift in global trade patterns, financial flows, and geopolitical alliances. However, the potential rewards for BRICS are enormous. A successful transition would grant them greater economic sovereignty, reduce their vulnerability to US sanctions, and enhance their global influence. The stakes are high, and the world is watching. The dollar's reign: how the US currency conquered the world. The story of the US dollar's rise to global dominance is a fascinating tale of economic strategy, geopolitical maneuvering, and historical circumstances. The US dollar's journey to global dominance began in the aftermath of World War II. The war had left much of Europe in ruins, creating a vacuum that the United States was poised to fill. With much of Europe in ruins, the United States emerged as the world's leading economic and military power. American factories were booming, and the US economy was growing at an unprecedented rate. The 1944 Bretton Woods Agreement formalized the dollar's role as the anchor of the global financial system. This agreement established a new international monetary order, with the US dollar at its center. Other currencies were pegged to the dollar, which was in turn convertible to gold. This system provided stability and predictability in international trade and finance. This system, however, began to unravel in the 1970s. The US was facing mounting economic challenges, including inflation and balance of payments deficits. The United States, facing mounting inflation and balance of payments deficits, decided to abandon the gold standard. President Nixon's announcement in 1971 marked the end of an era. The dollar became a floating currency, its value determined by market forces. This shift introduced a new era of currency volatility and speculation. Despite this change, the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency remained intact. Central banks around the world continued to hold vast reserves of US dollars. Several factors contributed to the dollar's continued dominance. The United States boasted the world's largest economy, deepest financial markets, and most stable political system. The United States boasted the world's largest economy, deepest financial markets, and most stable political system. These factors made the dollar a safe and attractive currency for international transactions. The dollar became the primary currency for international trade, particularly for commodities like oil. This further entrenched its position in the global economy. Central banks around the world held vast reserves of US dollars, further solidifying its position. The dollar's dominance seemed unassailable. However, the 21st century has witnessed a gradual erosion of the dollar's dominance. The global economic landscape is changing, and new players are emerging. The rise of emerging economies, particularly China, has shifted the balance of economic power. These nations are increasingly challenging the dollar's supremacy. The 2008 financial crisis, which originated in the United States, shook confidence in the dollar. The crisis exposed vulnerabilities in the US financial system. The increasing weaponization of the dollar through sanctions has also fueled resentment among some nations. Countries targeted by US sanctions are seeking alternatives to the dollar. Against this backdrop, BRICS's challenge to the dollar should be viewed as a symptom of a broader shift in the global order. The future of the dollar's dominance is uncertain, as the world moves towards a more multipolar economic system. Putin's Gambit? A new currency for a new order? Vladimir Putin, the president of Russia, has been a vocal critic of the US dollar's dominance. He has often highlighted the vulnerabilities and imbalances that come with a single currency holding such a powerful position in global trade and finance. He has repeatedly called for a more equitable and multipolar global financial system. This vision is not just about economic fairness, but also about geopolitical balance, reducing the influence of any one nation over the global economy. In recent years, he has become a driving force behind BRICS' efforts to create a new reserve currency. This initiative is seen as a strategic move to challenge the status quo and offer an alternative to the US dollar. Putin's proposal is ambitious and potentially game-changing. It aims to leverage the collective economic strength of BRICS nations to establish a currency that could rival the dollar in international trade. The details of the proposed currency remain unclear. There are many questions about its structure, governance, and the mechanisms that would underpin its stability. Some experts speculate that it could be a basket currency, pegged to a weighted average of the BRICS nations' currencies. This approach could provide a balanced and stable alternative to the dollar. Others suggest it could be backed by commodities, such as gold or oil. This would give the currency tangible value and potentially make it more attractive to international traders and investors. Regardless of the specifics, the underlying goal is clear: to reduce dependence on the US dollar and create an alternative system for international trade and finance. This move could have far-reaching implications for global economic dynamics. Putin's proposal has been met with a mixture of skepticism and cautious optimism. While some see it as a necessary step towards a fairer global economy, others are wary of the challenges and risks involved. Critics argue that the BRICS nations lack the economic cohesion, financial infrastructure, and political will to successfully launch a new reserve currency. They point to the complexities of aligning diverse economies with different priorities and challenges. They point to the vast differences in economic size, development levels, and political systems among the BRICS members. These disparities could pose significant hurdles to the creation and adoption of a unified currency. However, proponents of the idea argue that the current global financial system is unsustainable. They believe that the dominance of the US dollar creates imbalances and vulnerabilities that need to be addressed. They believe that a multipolar world requires a multipolar currency system. This would reflect the diverse and interconnected nature of the modern global economy. They point to the growing economic clout of BRICS nations and their increasing trade with each other. This intra-BRICS trade could provide a strong foundation for a new currency. They argue that the time is ripe for a bold move that could reshape the global order. With the right vision and cooperation, a new currency could emerge as a powerful tool for economic stability and growth. Section 4. A seat at the table. Potential benefits for BRICS nations. The potential benefits for BRICS nations in adopting a new reserve currency are significant. First and foremost, it would reduce their dependence on the US dollar, granting them greater economic sovereignty. Currently, BRICS nations are vulnerable to fluctuations in the dollar's value and US monetary policy decisions. A new currency would provide a buffer against these external shocks. Second, a new reserve currency would reduce BRICS nations' vulnerability to US sanctions. The United States has increasingly used sanctions as a tool of foreign policy, targeting countries that do not toe its line. A new currency would provide BRICS nations with an alternative system for conducting international transactions, making it more difficult for the United States to exert economic pressure. Third, a new reserve currency would enhance BRICS nations' global influence. The dollar's dominance has allowed the United States to project its power around the world. A new currency would shift the balance of power, giving BRICS nations a greater say in global economic governance. Finally, a new reserve currency could boost trade and investment within the BRICS bloc. By reducing transaction costs and exchange rate risks, a common currency would facilitate cross-border trade and investment. This could lead to increased economic integration and growth within the bloc. Section 5. The long road ahead. Challenges to dethroning the dollar. Despite the potential benefits, the road to replacing the US dollar as the world's reserve currency is fraught with challenges. The dollar has been the cornerstone of global finance for decades, and its influence is deeply embedded in the international monetary system. The first and most significant challenge is the sheer scale of the undertaking. The dollar's dominance is not just a matter of preference, but a result of historical, economic, and political factors that have evolved over time. The dollar is deeply entrenched in the global financial system. It is the primary currency for international trade, the standard for commodity pricing, and the preferred reserve currency for central banks around the world. Dislodging it would require a seismic shift in global trade patterns, financial flows, and geopolitical alliances. Such a shift would not only be complex but also time-consuming, requiring coordinated efforts from multiple nations. Second, the BRICS nations themselves are a diverse group with different economic interests and political systems. This diversity can be a strength, but it also poses significant challenges in terms of reaching a unified agreement. Forging a consensus on the specifics of a new currency, including its composition, governance structure, and monetary policy framework, will be a complex and potentially divisive process. Each nation will have its own priorities and concerns, making compromise difficult. Third, the success of any new reserve currency depends on its credibility and stability. Investors and governments need to trust that the currency will maintain its value and be widely accepted. The dollar's dominance is rooted in the depth and liquidity of U.S. financial markets, the strength of its institutions, and the stability of its political system. These factors have created a level of confidence that is hard to replicate. BRICS nations will need to demonstrate that their proposed currency can offer a comparable level of trust and stability. This will require not only robust economic policies, but also political stability and transparent governance. Finally, any attempt to challenge the dollar's dominance is likely to be met with resistance from the United States. The U.S. has a vested interest in maintaining the dollar's status as the world's reserve currency. The dollar is a source of immense economic and geopolitical power for the United States. It allows the U.S. to borrow at lower costs, influence global economic policies, and project power internationally. It is unlikely to relinquish this power without a fight. The U.S. could employ a range of strategies, from economic sanctions to diplomatic pressure, to undermine any rival currency. The United States could use its economic and diplomatic clout to undermine any attempt to create a rival currency. This resistance would add another layer of complexity to the already daunting task of dethroning the dollar.